Right. In the below diagram, oh, okay. In the below diagram, the region denoted by the line corresponds with the tissue type. So this is the line which they indicate, right? So this is the line what they indicate. So they are asking what are the type of tissues present in that area. Harani. So they asked about this line. Harani, I was talking to you. They asked about this line, and methylene palha we find meristematic tissues. Okay. Right. The next one, not a type, not a feature of meristematic tissues. Not a feature, right? Okay. Having distinct nucleus in each cell, right? That is a feature, right? Presence of large number of mitochondria, that's a feature. Presence of mitotic figures, that means the cell division is taking place through mitosis. So as you all know, there are two types of cell division, mitosis and meiosis. Usually gametes undergo meiosis. The gametes undergo meiosis. In plants, the gametes will be ovules and pollen grains. So these cells what we are here talking about are normal somatic cells. So they undergo mitotic division, right? Mitosis. So absence of a vacuole, that is the feature which is hold on, right? Okay. So absence of vacuole, that is the answer which comes here. And they ask for not a feature of meristematic tissues. Right. Next one, plants increases its height due to. Now, if you can remember, I just gave you to summarize all of these with a guide. I gave you a worksheet as a guide when I asked you to go for a short note, right? Form of short note using that. So in that, I have clearly included those questions, right? If you can remember, the plants grow their height, increases their height due to the apical meristems. There are actually three types of apical meristems. If you can remember, I'm sorry, apical meristems can be found in three main phases: in shoot apexes, root apexes, and auxiliary buds, right? So if you're talking about the increase of the height of the plant, that is obviously because of the reason, because of the cell division in apical meristems, right? So that is the answer. Apical meristems. Vascular cadmium in dicot is an example for vascular cadmium. If you can remember, vascular cadmium contains xylem and phloem. You have permanent tissues in that. Fourth one. Sorry, vascular cadmium. Okay, vascular cadmium tissues they're talking about. Yeah, lateral meristem. Sorry, lateral meristem. Right. The next one, we go for the fifth question. Feature common to all permanent tissues: presence of mitotic figures. Yes, obviously, permanent tissues will undergo mitosis. Let's talk about all of these options. Prominent nucleus in each cell, living tissues, ability to perform a particular function. Now, when you talk about permanent tissues, right? Simple. Now they tell us about permanent tissue. They don't mention whether it's a complex permanent or simple permanent tissue. So then, if you can remember this, permanent tissues. Yeah, when you talk about permanent tissues, if you can remember me, even in simple permanent tissues and in complex permanent tissues, you find non-living cells. Okay, if you can remember, sclerenchyma is a non-living permanent tissue. And when you talk about the xylem and phloem, those also contain non-living cells. So you can't say that all of them undergo cell division. You can't say that fact. They are living. That is not a fact to be considered, because there are non-living cells also in these permanent tissues. So presence of mitotic figures in the sense cell division take place all the way cell division take place all the time by mitosis. That is also cannot be considered because there are non-living cells. Prominent nucleus is present. If you talk about parenchyma, they don't have a nucleus at all because of the lignification. The entire thing turns into a solid structure, and the middle area turns into a hollow structure, right? So then that is also not true at all. So ability to perform a particular function, yes. Either they are dead or live, they have a function to perform. If they are dead, the permanent tissues, if they are dead, they have a function to give the strength to the plant, right? When they are live, sometimes you find permanent tissues which are live, those also assigned with a function, right? That is the answer you can go for. Fourth one, right? So what you have to understand from this fact is permanent tissues, there are live cells and non-living cells, right? So all the living cells will undergo cell division, will contain a nucleus, and all of these things will be there. But non-living cells, when they don't have a nucleus, when they don't have what they call biological structures like let's say a nucleus, you can't expect them to go undergo cell division, right? So keep that in your mind. That's how it comes, the answer, right? Most abundant tissue found in plants, parenchyma. Okay. So if you can remember, parenchyma has this function of storage of food, storage of water, and all of those functions are performed by parenchyma, right? Next, collenchyma is abundantly found in, right? Collenchyma is abundantly found in cortex and the pith are the stems and roots. Fleshy parts of food, that is parenchyma actually. Veins in dicotyledonous leaves, yes. That is the answer. Veins in dicotyledons. Collenchyma. Lignin is associated with parenchyma. Okay. Ninth one. Choose the answer with functions performed by parenchyma. Photosynthesis, yes, they are found in tissues where the photosynthesis takes place, yes, true. Food storage, yeah, that is done by parenchyma. And storage of water, all of them are done by these parenchyma tissues. So then all PQR and if providing support, yeah, in herbaceous plants, non-woody plants, water is spilled into these parenchyma tissues, vacuoles, and then the cell becomes turgid, and then the mechanical strength is provided to those plants by that method. That is also true. So and then only I told you, can you remember that if you take these non-woody plants and if you do not water them, the plant gets wilted. That's because the cells inside the stem of the plant gets shrinked due to lack of water. So if you water them again, if you water the plant again, right, the plant would get erect again, right? So that is because the cells, parenchyma cells, would absorb water and their vacuole will get filled with water, and then the cell becomes turgid to give the mechanical support to the mechanical strength to the plant stem. Right. All these functions are carried out by parenchyma tissues. Right. 10th, not a feature of collenchyma tissues. Right. Consists of not consists of living cells, true. Cell walls are evenly thickened, that's also true. Cells are elongated and polygonal in cross section. That's not true, Nick. That's not true. Presence of central vacuole. Hold on. Cell walls are no. Collenchyma, if you can remember, the collenchyma cell walls are not evenly thickened. The corners of the cell walls are thickened, extra thickened. The corners are extra thickened, right? When you talk about parenchyma, the cell walls were even. And then I told you, when it comes to collenchyma, the corners of the cell wall gets extra thickened, right? So then the cell wall is not evenly thickened. The corners are more thick, right? Because of deposition of due to the deposition of cellulose, right? This is due to the deposition of extracellulose, right? So then this second option is not true. Second option is not true, right? That's not the correct answer. So this is the answer for this question, right? Cell walls are not evenly thickened because of the deposition of extracellulose in the cell wall corners. Okay. So mark it with this also, right? So just go for this explanation as well. Right, 11th. The below diagram shows a fruit cut open with seeds in it. With seeds in it, okay. Okay. Pericarp region of this would most likely to be consist of. This is 11th, right? Pericarp. Okay, pericarp. Now this is the seed, and this is the fleshy part, right? They have mentioned. I think I gave one of these pictures to you, right? Endocarp, mesocarp, and all of these things. The pericarp should contain sclerenchyma. Coconut fibers, you can remember, sclerenchyma, sclerides and sclerenchyma fibers, right? So this is a coconut seed, right? You can see that coconut, yeah, the coconut. So in this coconut, this is the coconut husk with coconut fibers and all, right? So that basically contains sclerenchyma tissues, right? 12th, choose the incorrect statement. Choose the incorrect statement, right? The cell walls of sclerenchyma is composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Yes, true. True. We are talking about sclerenchyma. Yeah, true. That's all right. True. And then, sclerenchyma fibers are of great economic importance. Yes, true. True. Sclerenchyma fibers obtained from plant fibers. They are sclerenchyma fibers. They have a great economic importance. That's true. Collenchyma tissues helps for the aquatic plants floating. That's not true. That's not true. Right. Xylem and phloem can be found in leaves of plants. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because xylem phloem goes through the midrib and gets distributed through veins as well, because that's how the plants produce the food produced in plant leaves will be taken into the main phloem on the stem and will be distributed all over the plant, and even the water would be transported to each part of the leaf through the phloem, through the xylem, which is found on the mid rib of the plant leaf. That's true. So this is the wrong answer. C. 13th. They say that's a xylem. Okay. So even if I don't think that the picture is much clear, but still they say it xylem. So you can remember the figure that I gave you. Can imagine the parts, right? So what do they ask? Correct order. They ask for the correct order. P is xylem parenchyma. Here the Q is xylem fibers. R is xylem vessel elements. S is tracheids. Not much clear, true, I agree, but this is the answer. The main function of the xylem in plant transport water and minerals. That is the main function. One can argue, don't the xylem has the function of giving the mechanical strength to the plant? Yes, true, has, right? But the main function of the xylem is transport water and minerals, right? The only living cell found in xylem tissue, right? The only living cell type found in xylem tissues, right? That is xylem parenchyma. As I can remember, I gave you the living and non-living cells separately in xylem and phloem. So then I even included that in the short note. That means the guide that I gave it to you. So please keep them in your mind. These sort of questions will be asked. So when you talk about this xylem contains 1 living and 3 non-living. The phloem is the opposite. It contains 3 living and 1 non-living. Okay. Right. Right. This is also would be a little tough because of the diagram problem. Let's see. 16th and 17th are based on the diagram given below. Okay. What is the main function of the cell denoted by the arrow R? You can see that this is now what they try to indicate from here. What they try to indicate from here, a plate, a thing which is with force. So they say this is the phloem. Okay, they say this is the phloem. They say this is the phloem, and if you can remember, as I told you, the phloem elements, right? We call them as phloem sieve tubes, right? We call them as sieve tubes. Those are not complete. The walls or the cross walls of the sieve tube elements are not completely dissolved. They actually have holes in it. So we call them as sieve plates. We call them as sieve plates. So what they try to indicate from S is sieve plates, right? That's what they try. They try to indicate sieve plate from S. Okay. That's what they try. So P is indicated. P indicate the sieve tube, and R indicate companion cells. If you can remember, a sieve tube does not have a cell nucleus. The companion cell controls the activity of the sieve tube, right? So what is the main function of the cell denoted by the R? Controls the activity of the sieve tube elements. Yeah, that's the function, because R is a companion cell. So mark it like this, and then you can write the answer. You can go for the answer. What is the main function of the cell denoted by R? That is to control the activity of the sieve tube elements. Right. Seventeenth, what is true about the cell type denoted by P? Okay. Main function is to provide the support to the plant, right? Okay. Composed of dead cells. No, xylem vessel elements are not dead. Have a prominent nucleus. Actually, they don't have a nucleus. They don't have a nucleus, right? Function of P with each other, with fusion of P. Fusion of P is fusion of P with each other and incomplete R, right? Okay, incomplete dissolved cross walls can be given rise to S. That means they say yes. So if you have a lot of P's, like that means a lot of sieve tube elements, right? A lot of sieve tube elements, the cross walls may get dissolved, and then S will be occurred. S in the sense sieve plates. So we are confirmed that they are talking about sieve tube elements. Okay. So then 17th, yeah, that is true, because it is sieve tube elements. So the best description what they give here for the sieve tube will be the what you call option D. Fusion of P, that means fusion of lot of P's, that means sieve tube elements with each other, and incomplete dissolving of cross walls. Yeah, that is will give rise to SC plates. Yeah, that is true. Right. In phloem, the food is transported in the form of, it's actually transported in the form of sucrose. None of the above is the answer, right? It transport as a sucrose solution. So none of this would be the answer there. What would they try? They know, most of you all know the answer, that it is transported in the form of a sucrose solution. But you want to go for an option with the things what they have mentioned out of these three. So then you will definitely know glucose not the form that the phloem transport different materials. Phloem transport produce food because glucose is immediately reacting even with oxygen, so it would get wasted. So then you would go for starch. No, not that's not the way, right? Not even maltose, right? Sucrose is the form how the produced food inside the leaves will be transported through the phloem of the plant, right? 19th, vascular cambium is not found in monocot plants. Monocot plants, you don't find vascular cambium. Not a feature of epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues are a function of cells are placed on basement membrane. That's very true. It's a feature. It's a feature. Cells are tightly packed. Yeah, it's a feature. Okay, it's a feature. Presence of a nerve supply. That is true. Nerve supply is there. Presence of blood supply, that's not there. There's no blood supply for. It's like this. It is also situational. Generally, when you're talking about the features of epithelial tissues, we say that they don't have a blood supply. That's it. Right. Epithelium in this organ helps in the precipitation of special senses. Stomach, you have epithelial cells, but they don't actually help you for sensing things. No, right? Not true. Urinary bladder, yeah, you have epithelial cells, but they don't have a capability of sensing things. Again, when you talk about the trachea, you have epithelial tissues, no, right? Tongue, you have epithelial cells on it. On top of those epithelial buds, you have taste buds. Taste buds. They help you to recognize different tastes. So that is the answer. 22nd, the primary purpose of stratification or layering. Can you remember that I told you about stratified columnar epithelium, stratified cuboidal epithelium? If you can remember, I explained that to you, right? So wait till I show you that. So that's what I tell you. Sometimes, like the teacher has to give some notes beyond and beyond the limit, right? So every time we have situations like this because most of the time I tell you, like, I give some notes beyond your limits because they sometimes those situations might lead to ask questions, right? So in the mage ate mukut mama වැරත් මේ අඩුපාඩුවක් තියාගන්න නැත්නම් I usually form the note, right? If you can remember, I'm going to show it to you. When we were talking about these epithelial tissues, right, we call this simply as epithelia. We discussed several shapes. Epithelial cells have different shapes depending on the location of them and depending on the function that they are assigned to do, right? So when you talk about the different shapes, I told you always epithelial tissues will range in sometimes in single layers, sometimes as multi-layers. So then I told you, when you have multi-layered epithelial cells to form the tissue, we call them as stratified, right? So simply now if you can see here, this is the shape which is called this epithelial tissue as squamous epithelium, right? So this shape is called squamous shape. And then when you have multi-layers of squamous epithelial cells, we call it as stratified squamous epithelium, right? So as like in that form, right, in this way, I told you when I was teaching to you, when you have multi-layers of epithelial cells pile up on each other, we call that situation as a stratified situation, okay? So then primary purpose of stratification or layering of epithelial tissues is for increase, most of the time protection, right? Secretion, no. Absorption has, now if you can remember, the absorption to be taken place over a surface, surface of cells or tissues. The surface or the layer has to be very thin. The tissues has to be very thin, right? So when you have multi-layered epithelial tissues, who is that? Can you remember that? If you have multi-layered epithelial tissues, right? Stratified epithelia, that is mainly to increase the protection. Okay, right. And we are moving on to the 23rd. 23rd. What type of tissue holds most organs together? Okay, right. Okay. 23rd. Which organ? Which tissue holds most organ together? That is connective tissues. Connective tissues. All right. 24th. Not a connective tissue. Not a connective tissue. Nerves are not connective tissues. Right? Nerves are not connective tissues. Hold on. That is not there, right? Hold on. Nerves are connected. Put in it. Put in. Not a connective tissue, sorry, not a connective tissue, muscles. Right. Next, smooth muscle is not found in, okay, smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are mostly found inner to epithelial tissues, right? Inner to epithelial tissues. Heart is not found with the smooth muscle system. Heart is made with cardiac cells, cardiac tissues. Okay. 26. Choose the correct answer. Right. So the first one is, of course, you can understand that is a skeletal muscle cell. Second one is first one is smooth muscles. Second one is branched completely to cardiac. Z is skeletal. Right. Smooth cardiac skeletal. This is the answer. Right. Okay. All right. 27. What is the special characteristic of cardiac muscles to be differed from other two muscle types? Cardiac muscles to be differed from other two types. Presence of, let's go through all. Presence of uninucleated cells, presence of striations. Striations can be even seen in striations, that is not, because striations can be seen in cardiac and even skeletal muscle cells, both. Presence of uninucleated cells. This can be seen in cardiac and even in smooth muscle cells, right? Cardiac and smooth. This is skeletal, right? Controlled involuntarily. This can be also seen in cardiac and smooth, right? When you talk about intercalated discs, that can be only seen in cardiac cells, cardiac tissues. That is the answer. 28. Muscle types which is present with striations are, and then you have a if you have gone through this what do you call the summarization, then you have this all written in a short note type note, so then you can simply get the things into your mind. Types which are present with striations can be seen in only cardiac and skeletal, both skeletal and cardiac muscles. This is the answer. 29. Special characteristic of cardiac muscle which helps heart to beat in each and every second without being stopped. The ability of cardiac cells to work forever without getting tired. That is what they ask for, without getting stopped. So they have a capability to never get fatigued, never get fed up. Okay, that is the answer. 30th. True statement about the skeletal muscles. Muscle fibers are short and cylindrical. Let's go through it. Muscle fibers are branched skeletal muscles are not branched. Presence of uninucleated cells, they have multinucleated cells, become fatty easily. True statement. They are asking about the true statement. This is the true statement. Muscles are short and cylindrical. 31st neuron type which helps to transmit impulses from central nervous system to the effector.
Skeletal muscles fatigue one easily.
Easily fatigued, easily fatigued in the become fatigued easily. Yeah. That is also true. Right. Yeah. In the cardiac muscles are short and cylindrical. Right, Aragolus spindle shape, smooth muscle, short and cylindrical. We actually the skeletal muscles short cylindrical true, but they are not short, they're long. Cardiac muscles are short. I'm sorry, yeah, right? Short and cylindrical short and cylindrical. This is cardiac. Skeletal muscles are long cylindrical. Okay, yeah, become fatigued easily. That is the very correct answer. They get fatigued easily. Thank you. Right. So keep it in your mind. This is the spindle shape. Spindle. This comes for smooth muscles, right? Cardiac muscles short and cylindrical, and this is skeletal, long and cylindrical. Okay. Right. So the neuron type which helps to transmit impulses from the central nervous system to the effector. Effector is the effector can be the organ or a gland, right? Actually, motor neurons, right? 33rd. Yeah, parts of a neuron. If you see this is going to be a node of Ranvier. Node of Ranvier, right? This is going to be a node of Ranvier. Okay, this is a cell body. You can call this one as a dendron. Okay, so then dendron, cell body, node of Ranvier. Right. Next one. What is the structure indicated by R? R indicates the node of Ranvier. 33. Mitochondria are situated in all the organelles are found in cell body, that is in Q. So this is the answer. What is the main function of myelin sheath? If you can remember this is called the axon. The long one is called axon, right? Axon, and we call them as axon terminals, right? Axon terminals. If you can remember, the axon is wrapped up with myelin, right? So if you can remember, I told you myelin can increase the rate of transmission of nerve impulses, protect the neuron, increase the speed of transmission, helps to keep the shape of the neuron. Sorry, nourish the neuron. It's actually increases the transmission of nerve impulses. That's the answer. Think you're catching a tennis ball. Catching a tennis ball thrown to you by a friend. Okay, what is the sequence of impulses? You have to see it first. That means that you're taking a impulse from the sensory organs, eyes. So then eye transmit the impulse of your ball coming towards you to your brain, that is the central nervous system, through a sensory neuron. So the brains or the basically brains relay neuron. That means interneuron would accept this impulse from the sensory neuron and hand it over to the motor neuron to be taken it up to the muscles of your arm. So that's how it happens. Sensory neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. This is the answer. Right.